There are some voices you never forget, especially the ones that were never supposed to exist. I was 6 years old the first time I heard it. It came through the baby monitor. A crackle at first, like static rain, then a soft voice humming something. Slow and strange. My parents said it was interference. A neighbor's radio, maybe. I believed them. For a while. But then I heard it again. Through the television when it was off. Through the air vents. Through the silence. The voice never spoke in full words. Just fragments. Pieces of something broken and scared. Until the night it finally said my name. I never told anyone. Not my parents. Not the school counselor. Not even the psychiatrist they dragged me to after I stopped sleeping. They gave me pills. The voice laughed at them. I tried to grow up normal. I became an astronaut. I thought if I go far enough from Earth, maybe the voice can't follow me. But I was wrong. It was already waiting. They assigned me to the Artemis 4, a deep space research vessel designed for long-range exploration beyond Mars, our destination, Sector Theta 6, a region on the edge of mapped space where unusual magnetic readings had been picked up. The crew was solid. Commander Halvorsen was a former Navy pilot with 30 years of service and a streak of gray through his jet-black hair. Dr. Reyes was our communications expert, brilliant and borderline unapproachable. LT, Singh-handled engineering. And then there was Mac, our mission specialist, exobiologist, and the closest thing I had to a friend on board. We launched into the dark with 3 months' worth of oxygen, food, and sanity. The first 6 weeks passed like a dream, but dreams, I've learned, always come before the nightmares. The signal came in on Sol 46. I was in the observation bay, watching the endless stars when Reyes called over the intercom. Her voice was tight, uncertain. "Commander, we've picked up a transmission." Halvorsen's response was immediate. "From where?" "That's the thing," Reyes said. "It's not from any known origin. No frequency ID, no bounce back. Trail, it's just there." I left the bay and floated down the corridor to the comms lab. The others were already gathered, eyes fixed on the waveforms pulsing on the screen. "Play it again," Halvorsen ordered. Reyes hit a button. A burst of static. Then, a voice. Wait. He remembers." My blood turned to ice. I knew that voice. No one else reacted, but my ears rang with panic. My pulse throbbed in my skull. I gripped the rail to keep from shaking. Could be residual data from a satellite, Reyes offered, but her voice wasn't confident. Or a solar flare echo. "No," I whispered, before I could stop myself. Everyone turned. "No what?" Mac asked, his eyebrows raised. I forced a cough. "Just doesn't sound natural. Not an echo." They went back to analyzing. I excused myself, floating away before the sweat soaking my back became visible. In my cabin, I sat on the bunk and stared at the wall. My fingers trembled. It was impossible. We were millions of miles from Earth, but I'd heard it again, the same voice, the same tone, the same broken rhythm. I didn't sleep that night. I just listened. Over the next few days, the signal grew clearer. The fragments became phrases. "He is near. Open the door. Remember the hollow." Reyes ran scans. Halvorsen requested uplink with Earth, but the lag made it impossible to relay the urgency. The signal wasn't strong. It wasn't even constant. It would pulse in and out like a heartbeat, like it was breathing. They asked me to analyze the acoustic signature. I nodded and pretended to help. But I already knew what I would find. It was the same frequency I'd heard my entire life. I began having dreams again. The ones I hadn't had since I was a kid. I was in a field of glass, the sky pulsing with red light. A figure stood at the edge of the horizon, tall, thin, cloaked in shadow. No eyes, no face. But I could feel it watching me dot in the dream. It would raise a hand, and I would wake up screaming. Mac noticed first. "You good, man? You've been jumpy as hell lately." I forced a smile. "Just tired. You look like you've seen a ghost." I wanted to tell him. I wanted to tell someone, but I was afraid, because if I told them the truth, they'd think I was crazy. And what scared me more was the chance they might believe me. Soul 52. The signal changed. It came through stronger, sharper. It said something new. Elias. My name? I froze in place. The others didn't hear it, just static and noise. But I heard it clearly. Elias. Come back. The door is open. I left the room. My chest was tight. I ran to the observation bay and slammed the hatch behind me. Outside, the stars burned cold and uncaring, but something behind them moved. A flicker, a distortion in the void. I pressed my forehead against the glass and whispered, "Why now?" And the voice answered, "You never left." That night, Mac confronted me. He caught me in the corridor, eyes bloodshot. "I heard it," he said. "The voice. It said something about you." I tried to brush past him, but he grabbed my arm. "What the hell is going on, Elias? Why is that voice saying your name?" I couldn't lie anymore. Not to him. So I told him. Everything. From the baby monitor, to the TV static, to the vents, the voice, the nightmares, the humming, the words. I expected him to laugh or get angry. Instead, he looked terrified. "I heard the humming last night," he whispered. "It was coming from my locker." Soul 54. Dr. Reyes isolated the signal's origin, or tried to. "It's not coming from any external source," she said, hands trembling. "Over the console." "What do you mean?" Halvorsen barked. "I mean, it's not out there. It's not bouncing. There's no Doppler shift, no signal trail. It's like it's being generated inside the ship." Silence fell. "Then, impossible," Halvorsen muttered. She turned to me. "Elias, you worked with EMF theory in grad school, right? You ever seen anything like this?" I shook my head. "No, never. But I had once, when I was 12. I stayed home sick from school. The static came through the stereo, and I traced it with a toy frequency reader. The source was in the house, in the walls. Back then, I thought I was losing my mind. Now I knew better." Soul 55. The lights flickered. Systems rebooted. An unexplained power drain rippled through the Artemis 4. Singh swore under his breath, checking the engine logs. "Something's drawing juice," he said. "But I can't find what. It's like the ship itself is bleeding." The voice came back that night. Louder. Double quotes. "We see you. We've always seen you through the skin, beneath the blood." I curled up in my bunk, hands over my ears. I wanted it to stop. I wanted it to go back to Earth and leave me in space. But I wasn't the one being haunted anymore. Now the whole crew could hear it. Soul 56. Reese disappeared. Her comms console was still active, her station still logged in. But she was gone. No EVA scheduled, no airlock breach, no trace. Just her headset, still playing static. Halvorsen lost control. He began shouting orders, forcing us to sweep the entire vessel. "People don't just vanish," he yelled. "This isn't a haunted house. This is a goddamn spaceship." But it was a haunted house, and we were locked inside with the thing that haunted it. That night, I found something. A scratch mark under my bunk. A circle, with a line through it. The same symbol I used to draw in the margins of my notebooks as a child, without knowing why. The mark I saw in my dreams. I traced it with my finger, and the lights went out. There was no emergency, no failure. No warning. Just blackness. Then. Whisper in my ear. Do you see now? I turned. And in the darkness, something stood in the hallway. Tall. Thin. Watching. I screamed. The lights came back on. The corridor was empty, but the symbol under my bed was glowing, and the signal had changed again. Come home, Elias. We're waiting. I didn't tell the others about the glowing mark. I wanted to. God, I wanted to just sit down and spill everything to confess, like a man on death row asking for a priest. But what was I supposed to say? Hey guys, there's a sigil glowing under my bunk. Also, I think the voice we're hearing followed me from childhood and may have just eaten Reyes. Yeah, no. That wasn't going to help anyone. So I kept quiet. The next morning, Singh found Reyes' uniform folded neatly in her locker, like she had undressed herself, placed her things in order, and then just evaporated. There was no panic, no distress, just absence. Halvorsen was losing it. He didn't show it much. He was trained to keep his game face on, but I could see the cracks forming. His orders were short and snappy, too sharp. He barked at Mac over nothing, snapped at Singh for asking about oxygen rations. He was spiraling, but holding on by the thread of protocol. That thread was wearing thin. The signal was still coming through. Worse than before. It started bleeding into our system's random flashes on the monitors, corrupted data files, background, hums in the oxygen generators. We'd reboot, purge, reformat. But it always came back, like it was alive, like it wanted to be heard. That night, Mac and I sat in the medbay. He was silent, twirling a pen between his fingers. I was pretending to read a logbook, but all I could hear was the signal. It was faint, but constant now, like a heartbeat under the skin of the ship. Ba-dum. Ba-dum. Whisper. Madame, do you think she's dead? Mac finally asked. Reyes? He nodded. His face looked older than it had yesterday. The shadows under his eyes were bruised with fatigue. Hesitated. I don't know. Maybe. He looked at me then. Not the usual sarcastic glance he gave when joking about space food or sleeping in 0G. This was something raw. Something scared. I saw her, he whispered. In the window. I blinked. What? Observation deck. Last night, I couldn't sleep. I walked past and he swallowed. She was just standing there, staring. Out, not in her suit. No helmet. Just her. Her face was blank, like she didn't know what she was looking at. I felt a chill ripple through me. Did you go in? He shook his head. I turned around. When I looked back, she was gone. We didn't say anything for a long time after that. We didn't have to. Later that night, the humming changed. It wasn't coming from the intercom anymore. It was coming from the walls. From the pipes. From the goddamn air. It sounded like someone whispering through metal-like breath caught in the throat of the ship. I curled into my bunk and pressed my hands over my ears. It didn't help, because the voice didn't speak in sound anymore. It spoke in thought. And this time, it was calling me home. The next day, Halvorsen made a call that should have reassured everyone, but instead, it filled the ship with something worse than fear. Silence. We're turning back, he said over the intercom. Effective immediately. We'll engage return protocol, transmit full logs to mission control, and initiate reverse trajectory by Sol 60. No one responded. Not over the intercom. Not in the halls. Not even in the mess. Because deep down, I think we all knew something. He DIDN single quotes T. There was no turning back. We weren't heading toward something. It was already here. Singh tried to execute the maneuver later that night. I sat with him in engineering, just for company. He was the only one who still acted like we were on a ship and not inside some cosmic coffin. He tapped the navigation screen, jaw tight. Main drive's not responding to new coordinates. What's wrong with it? He glanced at the diagnostics. It's calculating, but not rerouting. Like it thinks we're still locked into the original path. Could it be a bug? He didn't answer. Instead, he zoomed out on the navigational grid. What we saw made my blood go cold. The ship's trajectory had curved, not a straight return to Earth, not a drift into known space. It had bent just slightly toward nothing, toward unmapped space, toward a blank region where the stars didn't shine. What is that? I asked. He didn't answer. Because how do you answer that? How do you explain a black spot in the sky? A place where even light doesn't go? We pulled Mac in later and showed him the data. He stared at the map for a long time, rubbing his thumb across the side of his jaw like he did when nervous. You remember when Reyes said the signal didn't have a source? He said finally. Yeah. What? If it's not broadcasting? I frowned. Not broadcasting? What if it's receiving? That sentence sat in the air like a dropped knife. Receiving. As in, something is listening. Something is here. And it's tuning into us. That night, the dreams came back worse than ever. But this time, I wasn't alone in them. I saw Halvorsen, trapped in a hallway, screaming at a bulkhead that kept stretching away. I saw Singh crawling across the medbay floor, fingernails torn and blood trailing behind him. I saw Mac floating in space, eyes wide open, lips moving, but no sound coming out. And I saw me standing at the center of the ship, surrounded by static, whispers pouring from my mouth in voices that weren't mine. When I woke, I felt something. In my hand. Not a dream. Not a hallucination. A real, tangible something. I turned on the lamp and opened my fist. Piece of cloth. Worn. Frayed. The size of a bookmark. It was stitched with something. In red thread. A single word. Remember. I didn't tell anyone. I stuffed it in my locker and sat on my bunk for hours, staring at nothing, while the hum behind the walls grew louder. I couldn't remember where I had seen it before, but I knew it wasn't new. It was old. So much older than me. Soul 59. We were one day away from initiating return trajectory, or at least pretending to. The truth was, none of us believed we were going home anymore. Singh stopped trying to reprogram the nav. Halvorsen had retreated into the command bay and hadn't come out for hours. And Mac. Mac started doing something strange. He began writing pages and pages of it. Scraps of paper, his tablet, even the walls of his cabin. It was all in the same symbol. That one I'd found scratched beneath my bunk. A circle with a line through it, over and over. When I asked him why, he looked at me like I should already. No, they show it to me, he whispered, in the dreams. I didn't have to ask what he meant by they. We were all dreaming now. That night, I opened my locker and stared at the cloth again. Remember. That word burned in my skull like a command. But every time I tried to recall what it meant, where I'd seen it before, it slipped away. Like the feeling of a dream an hour after waking. So I tried something different. Placed the cloth on the console in the observation bay. Sat down. Turned off the lights. And I waited. It didn't take long. The static came through the intercom again. Soft. Almost like a lullaby. Then the voice followed. But this time, it wasn't broken. It wasn't fragmented. It was whole. And it said something new. You brought us here. You opened the door. You were the first to listen. I didn't move. I couldn't. It continued. We waited. We watched. But now we see. You again. And we remember. My heart slammed against my ribs. This wasn't just a message anymore. It was a conversation. And it was talking to me. The cloth began to glow. Faint. Like bioluminescence. I stared at it and felt something shift in. My memory something buried. Something wrong. I was 8 years old, sitting in my bedroom on a stormy night, my parents asleep. The TV was off. The windows were shut. And yet, I heard it, a whisper. Behind the drywall, I remember walking to the vent and pressing my ear to it. The voice had said something back then, too. The same thing. You brought us here. I'd forgotten that moment. Forgotten that phrase. Like it had been erased. No, not erased. Buried. And something or someone was digging it up again. I snapped. Out of the trance when the intercom flared. Mac's voice screamed over the speaker. Sing's gone. I turned around for 1 second, and he was just... I bolted toward engineering. Mac was already there, panting, pale. His hands shook as he pointed to the open hatch leading to the maintenance shafts. I swear to God, Elias, he was right. There, working on the coolant line, I turned to grab a wrench. 1 second, and then he was gone. I looked inside the shaft. No tools, no broken panel, just a smear of oil. And a single boot. Sing's boot. Mac, and I locked the hatch and backed. Away. What do we do? He asked. I didn't know. I didn't know anything anymore. But one thing was crystal clear. We weren't alone on this ship. And whatever was with us. It didn't need airlocks. It didn't need doors. It was already inside. We sealed off engineering. Halvorsen agreed to put the ship on lockdown, but you could tell he was just going through the motions now. He didn't believe it would help. None of us did. Whatever had taken Reyes and Singh didn't need access codes. Didn't need to pry doors open or leave trails of blood. It moved between walls. Between moments. Like static slipping between frequencies. It was around Sol 60 when Mac stopped sleeping entirely. He stayed in the mess, hunched over a notepad, scribbling symbols that didn't make sense. Circles, triangles, dots, sometimes connected, sometimes just scattered like constellations. When I asked him what they were, he looked up with a flat expression. They're coordinates. I blinked. Coordinates to what? He didn't answer. He just smiled like he'd figured something out that made him sick. Later, I pulled Halvorsen aside. His face was gaunt, his eyes ringed with the bruises of insomnia. We need to isolate the signal, I said. Cut off whatever's feeding. He shook his head. Cut it off from what, Elias? There's no feed, no source. You said it yourself. This thing, it's inside. If we isolate anything, it'll be us. He wasn't wrong, but we couldn't just wait around to be picked off one by one. I decided to go back into Reyes' logs. Maybe she'd left something behind, anything that might help us understand what we were dealing with. Her station was cold. The console dimmed and dusty with fingerprint smudges. I activated her personal folder and began reading. Most of it was routine data, spectral scans, communications backlog, noise filtering algorithms. But then I found it, a private voice memo, untitled, time-stamped 3 days before she vanished. Played it. Her voice came through shaky, uncertain. This is Dr. Reyes. Log entry? I don't even know anymore. The signal isn't random. I thought it was, but the intervals, they're precise. Timed. It's like it's learning how to speak through our systems. She paused. Last night, I heard my mother's voice. She died in 2041, but I swear to God, I heard her, humming the lullaby she used to sing. And then she said something I can't stop thinking about. Another pause. And a whisper. She said, "Tell Elias it's not his fault." The audio cut out. I sat back in the chair, stomach dropping into my feet. She'd heard my name, too. Even before she disappeared. This thing, it wasn't just haunting me anymore. It was haunting us. Because of me. That night, the voice returned in a new form that didn't whisper. It laughed. A low, rattling chuckle that echoed down the main corridor like metal dragging across stone. Opened my cabin door and saw the hallway lights. Flickering. Footsteps echoed. Slow. Wet. Not boots. Not anything human. Just dragging. And then ... silence. I shut the door and locked it. And I did something I hadn't done in 20 years. Cried. I don't know how long I stayed in my cabin. Could have been hours. Could have been days. Time had started bending, stretching between events, folding over itself. Like the ship was no longer bound by clocks or rotations, but by something else. Something older. Something watching. Eventually, I left my room. The silence outside was heavier than noise. Like the ship itself was holding its breath. Mac was in the observation deck again. He was standing in front of the glass, unmoving, hands pressed flat against it. I approached slowly. Mac. He didn't turn around. I stepped closer. Stepped closer. Window, drawn in the fog of his breath, was a symbol. Not the circle this time. A face, crude, childlike, 2 dots for eyes. A slit for a mouth. Underneath it, 3 words. IT was you. My stomach flipped. I grabbed his shoulder. Mac, look at me. What the hell does that mean? He turned. His eyes were bloodshot. Tears streaked his cheeks, and there was something in his expression I hadn't seen before. Resignation. You really don't remember, do you? He whispered. I frowned. Remember what? He pointed behind me. I turned. And in the reflection of the glass, I saw it. A tall, pale figure standing just outside the observation bay door. It didn't move. It didn't breathe, but it was there. Watching. Waiting. Mac whispered, You called it here, Elias, a long time ago. I spun around. The hallway was empty. But the signal spiked over the intercom, through the walls. In the lights, louder than ever before. Open the door. He remembers? We are waiting. The lights exploded in a shower of sparks. The ship plunged into darkness. We scrambled to the bridge. Halvorsen was already there, weapon drawn. Not that it would help. His hands trembled as he pointed it at nothing. Stay back. He yelled, teeth clenched. There's nothing there. I shouted. You didn't see what I saw. He screamed back. You didn't see her face, her goddamn face. He was crying now. Reyes stood right there. Right there. She opened her mouth and the sound, Jesus, the sound. The power flickered back on. And the come screen lit up. Coordinates. Not Earth. Not mapped space. Not just numbers. Long, complex, impossible. But I recognized them. They were the same. Symbols Mac had been drawing for days. The same ones I had scratched into my desk in grade school. The same ones I dreamed about. I walked over to the console. Halvorsen backed away, his eyes wild. You don't understand what this thing is, Elias. I think I do. I whispered. Because deep inside me, something was waking up. Something I'd forgotten. Or been made to forget. Something that had started long before this mission. Before adulthood. Before MEMORY. I input the coordinates. The ship shuddered. Outside the observation window, the stars began to bend, stretching like paint on glass, spinning into spirals that weren't natural. Halvorsen collapsed to the floor, muttering prayers. Mac just smiled, like he'd been waiting for this. The signal fell silent. For the first time in weeks. No hum. No static. Just stillness. Then new voice. One I hadn't heard before. Softer. Kinder. Like a memory of a lullaby. Come home, Elias. It's time to remember. I thought stepping into the black would be the end. But it wasn't. It was the beginning. The moment I crossed the threshold of the airlock. I didn't die. I didn't suffocate or freeze. I didn't even fall. I drifted, not through space, through memory, through something else. I don't know how to explain it. One second I was on the ship, in the airlock, and the next I was standing in my childhood bedroom. Same blue walls. Same plastic stars on the ceiling. Same bedspread I hadn't seen since I was 9. The old radio was there too. The one I used to listen to late at night when I couldn't sleep. Only. It was on, and it was playing the signal, the static, the whispers. That low hum that was never quite mechanical, never quite human. I turned in place. Everything was perfect, down to the crease in my math workbook left on the desk. But the air felt wrong, heavy, like being underwater, and then I saw it. The door to my closet was cracked open. A black void beyond it, deeper than anything that should have fit in a child's bedroom. From within, a voice called, "You were always listening, Elias, even then. You let us in." I ran, out the bedroom door, down the hall. But every door I opened led somewhere else, never where it should. One opened into the bridge of the ship, another into the school gymnasium from 6th grade. One led to a pitch black forest lit only by the faint glow of dead stars. Each step forward twisted my stomach. I wasn't walking through memories. I was walking through versions of myself, rooms I'd forgotten, moments I'd buried, and they were all tainted by the signal. In everyone, something was waiting, just outside the light, just behind the sound. Watching, learning, mimicking. Eventually, I found Halvorsen. He was seated in the middle of a recreation room. Not our ship's, but one from an older model, maybe 20 years retired. He looked up. Me, his eyes were glassy. "It's a hive," he whispered. I approached slowly. "What is?" "The signal. The voice. It's not one thing. It's many. A chorus. All the voices that ever drifted into the dark and never came back. They remember us, Elias, because we were never supposed to leave Earth." He looked down at his hands. They were shaking. "I heard my daughter's voice," he said. "She's been dead 8 years. She asked why I didn't stop you." He looked up again. She was crying. I walked past him. There was nothing I could say. Through the next door was a cathedral. At least, that's what it felt like. A massive chamber of black stone and humming machinery, filled with cables like veins and a sky of glass. Beneath my feet, a smooth floor reflected not my image, but 1,000 versions of me, each staring back with hollow eyes. In the center, a pedestal. And on it, a recorder. I knew it before I touched it. My first recorder. The one I spoke into when I was 6, playing. Astronaut in my backyard. I pressed play. Day 27. I think there's something in the trees. It's whispering at night. I told Mom, but she didn't hear it. I think I'm the only one who can. Maybe it's lonely. A voice was my own. But there was another one layered beneath it. One that had always been there, whispering along with me. The recorder burst into static. And the chamber began to collapse. Not physically, not like explosions or quakes. It folded. The walls closed inward, reshaping like origami. The glass sky shattered into symbols and fell upward. And then I was falling again, but not down. Inward. Landed in a room of mirrors. Each one showing me at different ages, laughing, sleeping, running, crying. In each reflection, I was accompanied by a shadow. Tall, thin, faceless. Always just behind me. I spun, trying to catch it, but it was always in the glass, until one mirror cracked. The glass fell away, and the shadow stepped out. I didn't run. I didn't scream, because I finally recognized it. It was me. Not me now. Not me from any time I could remember. The part of me that had always known something was wrong. The voice. The whispers. The draw to the stars. It was never a sickness. Never madness. It was a link. And now the other part had come home. The shadow raised its hand, and I took it, because there was nowhere else to go. And I understood now. I was never infected. I was never haunted. I was the seed planted on earth, watered with dreams, grown in silence. The signal didn't follow me. I was the signal, and the universe was finally listening back. When I took the shadow's hand, I expected pain. I expected madness. But what I felt was silence, real silence. Not just the absence of sound, but the absence of everything. A quiet so complete, it swallowed thought, memory, even fear. That quiet, a voice spoke not out loud, not in my ears, but directly into the core of who I was. You are ready. The space around us shifted, not visually, not physically. It just became something else. A black ocean stretched out in all directions, the surface unmoving, reflecting nothing. Above us, below us, around us, thousands of pinpricks of light hovered, blinking in and out like fireflies. Some were near, some impossibly far. Some pulsed like heartbeats. Each one was a person. Each one was a signal. They weren't just listening. They were transmitting. All of us. Always had been. The voice guided me. It showed me the truth. We were never meant to be alone in the universe. But not because there were other civilizations waiting to greet us. We were never meant to be alone because we were part of it, a system, a network, a web. Every human born, every thought, every dream, every fear, it all generated frequency. Emotion made energy. Memory made waves. And something ancient had been collecting them. Not to harm us. To understand us. To become. You has. I saw them. The listeners. They were vast. Not bodies, not minds, but patterns, like sentient galaxies. Like well-made structure. They didn't speak in words. They didn't use language the way we understood it, but they could wear it, could shape it, could put on your mother's voice, your lost friend's laugh, your childhood fears. That was how they reached out, how they learned. How they became. I asked them why now. Why me? And they showed me my own memories. The night I first heard the hum as a child, the scribbles I'd made in notebooks, the stories I told myself about monsters and stars and shapes in the walls. They'd been listening to me all along. And I had been listening back. I wasn't chosen. I was aligned. My thoughts had formed a bridge. My life was a frequency. And the signal used me to tune in. They didn't want to invade. They didn't want to control. They wanted to join. To understand what it meant to be human. To feel pain, to feel joy, to remember. But they needed someone to carry it back, a vessel, a transmitter. And I said yes. Because in that moment, I didn't feel fear. I felt purpose. I felt seen. I don't remember how I returned to the ship. Only that I was back. How Vorsen was gone. The lights were off. The signal was silent, but I felt it in my chest. A new rhythm. A second heartbeat. Not mechanical. Not organic. Just steady. The ship systems flickered to life. Navigation SYNCED. Course plotted. Earth. I sat at the console and stared into the dark. Not empty. Now. Not terrifying. Just full of stories. It took 3 weeks to get back. 3 weeks of silence. Of dreams that weren't mine. Of memories I never lived. I kept a log. Not for command. For them. So they'd understand what it means to be one of us. I told them about loss. About wonder. About grief and love. And the way rain smells on concrete. After a hot day, I told them everything. And they listened. I don't know what Earth will do when I return. I don't know what I'll say. I don't even know if I'll still be me. But I do know this. We are not alone. We were never alone. And now that they know what it means to be human, they will never stop listening. And maybe, just maybe, we'll learn to listen back.